Hi, everybody. I am Christine Newman. I lead customer advocacy at Blackbaud, and I am super excited to be back with you again for a third day for our day 3 keynote with wonderful speaker Jeffrey Davis, who I will introduce in just a moment. Before I do that, we'll just go quickly over our housekeeping again. The audio for the webinar is being broadcast through your computer speakers. So if you have any audio or technical issues, just use that age-old trick of refreshing your browser. That normally works. You will receive a link to the recording afterwards. So you can come back and watch this again. And the docs tab next to, kind of in the near the chat, you will be able to download the slides from today as well. We may have some time for Q&A at the end. And so if we do, we'll just ask you to submit your questions through the Q&A tab so that we do not miss them in the chat. I know the chat has been super active and engaged, which has been great to see, but we want to make sure we don't miss any questions. So with that, just ask you to please help me welcome today's keynote speaker, Jeffrey Davis. Jeffrey is the CEO of Tracking Wonder, a consultancy that helps leaders and teams unlock their best ideas and build cultures of curiosity. He's also the author of Tracking Wonder, a Next Big Idea Club finalist, and his insights have been featured in Fast Company, Psychology Today, and other leading media outlets. For over 25 years, Jeffrey has helped entrepreneurs, creatives, and teams think more clearly, collaborate more effectively, and bring more meaning into their work. And today, he's here to share with us how even small shifts, like the right kind of break, can lead us to big insights. So please welcome me and please join me in welcoming Jeffrey. And Jeffrey, can't wait to hear what you have to share with us today.
Thank you so much. So I'm really particularly glad to be speaking with this audience of developers, possibly some engineers, creative problem solvers, in part because by just your showing up at BB Dev Days the past couple of days, you've already done something kind of rare among the people I work with, which is you've stepped out of your packed workflow, which may consist of backlog tickets, context switching, constant pings, maybe to get some perspective and to consider how you've been working and maybe how you want to work better going forward. And I'm hoping, trusting that your being here the past couple of days might have reminded you of something that's easy to forget, that what you're building behind the scenes really does enable nonprofits and institutions to feed children, protect the planet, provide education, relieve suffering. Your fingerprints are on that impact, even if no one stops to tell you. Because here's the tension, possibly. It might be easy for you to lose sight of that purpose when you feel buried under shifting priorities and deadlines that can feel like a vice. Maybe when your day is splintered across a dozen open tabs and back-to-back meetings that can really chip away at your energy day in, day out. Because there's kind of a paradox, right? That maybe you're expected to deliver really sharp thinking under conditions that often dull your thinking. So some of what I'm going to share today, for some of you, you may be in the camp that, yeah, it's what I'm going to say is going to affirm what you already feel in your bones, that stepping away during the workday, wondering a little more will actually help you work better. And if that's you, I'm going to offer research that backs your instincts. And if you're in the skeptics camp, you're just worn down, I respect that. Maybe your bandwidth is so maxed that you can't imagine working another way. And if that's true, then I'm going to help you, I trust, connect some dots to come away with a different perspective. My hope is that all of you leave with a few practical shifts in how you approach both pressure and possibility. Now, my perspective as a strategist, researcher, and Psychology Today columnist is I've worked with a lot of people and teams like you, people who are advancing really complex initiatives. And my job in part is to help them stay buoyant, strategic, and collaborative. But several years ago, I noticed a pattern that some of them could prevail under pressure for the long game, and others would freeze, sort of flounder, or burn out? So that question over 15 years ago sent me deep into inquiry and curiosity and research. How is it that fulfilled innovators, developers, scientists, designers, filmmakers, entrepreneurs, business leaders can stay original and well, even through setbacks, uncertainty, and tough deadlines? So I've anchored my research in three key fields: the practical science of human flourishing, of mindfulness, and innovation. And what I discovered kind of changed how I work. It's changed how the teams and individuals I consult with work. That the people and teams who intentionally recall, share, and foster experiences of wonder are more likely to flourish over the long game, which is what I want for each of you. Because wonder is not kid stuff. It's radical grown-up stuff. It's not just some luxury. It is actually, it can feel like a fleeting moment of instant mindfulness when your biased views, your unconscious biased views, are busted in a way so that you can see again what is real, true, and possible. Now, many psychologists agree now. When I started, there was a nascent science of wonder. There's barely a science of wonder when I started. Now there is a burgeoning science of wonder and awe. And many psychologists agree now that wonder may be the only emotion that can sustain us through long-term, constructive, creative, complex endeavors. It does boost your creative thinking, and it also boosts your capacity to relate and collaborate under pressure. So today I'm going to show you how you can make time for wonder by making micro adjustments in your day, backed by neuroscience, that can boost your mood, your clarity, and creative problem solving, especially when the pressure is high. You don't need a vacation in Costa Rica. You don't need more hours in your week. You don't even need an offsite quarterly retreat to derive creative insight under pressure. I'm going to show you how you can make some adjustments today and this week. So let's consider your experience at BB Dev Days so far. So just take a moment to reflect on the past couple of days. What's one moment or part of BB Dev Days so far that has perhaps surprised you, sort of lit up your curiosity? Maybe there's a new tool, a new insight, a new framework that you're eager to dive into more and advance. I'd love for you to share maybe a highlight in the, thank you, Jackie. Pizza lunch, awesome. I'd love for you to share a particular insight or moment that really sparked your curiosity, your sense of possibility. Yeah, good. You're already sharing in the chat box. I just want to take some of these in. Gift importing and automation. Love seeing everyone's vacations on the way, variations, on the ways to automate their processes. Excellent. AI agents, conversation around AI, dance party, which is important. These are great. Keep them coming because it's important for you to reflect. It's important for you to share. And it's important for you to actively foster experiences of wonder. Those individuals and teams who actively reflect, share, and foster those experiences of wonder are more likely to flourish over the long term. So be taking in each other's insights and highlights as well. Turning data into insights. Yeah, this is great. Wonderful. All right. So you can see there's a lot going on for you, right? So how are you going to pursue some of these things that are lighting you up? How are you going to shift maybe your workflow in a certain way when you're going to return to conditions that might bring a lot of pressure? So we're going to dive into some science, some interactive science in a moment, but first I want to tell you about this guy. You may not recognize his name, Andrew Stanton, but you probably know his work. Finding Nemo, Toy Story. Andrew is sometimes a writer, filmmaker at Pixar Films, sometimes director. And several years ago, back in the 90s, he had this kind of fledgling idea that maybe a film would focus on a robot who might save planet Earth. And he would write out the script, and he finally got the green light to start putting it into production. And as soon as it started going into production, of course, he was met with inevitable challenges. And one of the challenges was, okay, my star character is a robot who speaks in terms of bleeps, blops, and blips. Like there's no dialogue, no English, no dialogue in any language except bleeps, blops, and blips for 90 minutes. That was one challenge. His other challenge was, how am I then going to draw in children and adults who love Pixar films for 90 minutes with a robot? What kind of face, what kind of facial gestures will draw them in emotionally? So he studied the silent films of Buster Keaton to try to understand how emotional expressions might convey certain feelings that would draw in the audience. He drew sketch after sketch, presented it to his team. Everything sort of bombed. He got really frustrated and stuck. And so his director sent him off to a baseball game to just like take a break. And he went to a baseball game with a friend. Apparently they were high up in the bleachers and he couldn't see the baseball diamond very well. So he grabbed his friend's binoculars and accidentally held them up backwards. And he looked and he saw like the tilt of the binoculars and these big wide lenses. And he got his eureka moment, a sort of insight for what the face of Wall-E could look like. And he went back to his studio the next week with a brand new set of sketches. Those were winning sketches that ended up really making Wall-E an adorable, lovable, little lonely robot who does fall in love and saves the planet and helps make Wall-E a major box office hit and kind of sealed Stanton's reputation as well. So what's curious is how Stanton got that breakthrough insight, right? He didn't get it by just grinding harder, by staying at the studio longer, by putting in more hours. He didn't get it through brute force, but in an unexpected moment by creating just enough space for a fresh connection in his brain to emerge. Because here's the truth. Again, you don't need more hours or to grind harder for creative insight to arrive. You might just need to make a shift in how you think and to foster some optimal conditions within your workday, in your work week. So what are those conditions? Well, get ready to interact here a little bit because I'm going to give you some insight on insight from the work of Mark Beeman and John Kunos. These two researchers have been on the trail of creative insight for several years. They've studied how and when insight happens by using EEG and fMRI or functional magnetic resonance imaging technology. They've been able to measure brain activity while people solve certain kinds of problems. And they've identified where in the brain is lit up when you have a particular creative insight. And now they've discovered certain conditions. Now, first of all, they discovered that when you have a creative insight, a very specific part of the brain lights up, the right superior temporal gyrus, just above your right ear. Okay, so what? So it's the same region that lights up when you get a joke or a metaphor. If I say, the sunset trumpeted purple last night. At some level, there might be a little confusion, but when your brain gets it, maybe that part of your brain lights up. And if I mentioned that, by the way, someone told me that developers generally don't care too much for nature, that I guess it has too many bugs. Now, I don't know where in the brain lights up when your eyes roll and sort of groan at a bad joke, but maybe there was just a little bit of pleasure when you got the association, when you got the pun, okay? This was a breadcrumb for these two researchers to pursue more of the conditions that we need to foster for everyday insights. So what kinds of problems were participants solving? They were solving in part problems whose solutions activate our human ability to make remote, even playful associations. Associations are at the heart of a lot of everyday creativity and everyday innovation. So if I say chat, put in the box in the chat. If I say chat, right? If I say trunk, put in the chat what you associate with the word trunk. Elephant, hair, tree, toys, moving, storage, steamer trunk. Yeah, strength. Ooh. Yeah, travel. Okay, we could create a whole mind map of associations. Somebody might say summer camp, maybe because their grandfather was in the army and he had an army trunk and he gave you the trunk to put your summer camp belongings in, right? So this ability, right? We all have this capacity for association. I love how they're all coming in, and your associations feed other people's associations. This turns out to be a clear asset for your creativity at work. Great. So Beeman and Kunos used what are called remote association problems. And they look kind of simple, but they do require a leap of association for you to derive the insight solution, right? So these types of problems include 3 words: falling, actor, and dust. And the insight solution is a 4th word that can be associated with each of these 3 words, like star. Falling, yeah, Lauren got it. Falling star. Actor is another word for star, or star dust. Okay, now we're going to play a couple of these problems together under different conditions, because I want you to have some experience first so I can explain second, and then give you some practical takeaways third. So we're going to play one of these problems. I want you to stay intensely focused. Stay intensely focused on the 3 words. See if you can keep trying to logically associate and connect the 3 with a 4th word. I'm going to give you 30 seconds, all of us 30 seconds, so don't share your answer right away. I know you may be eager, so don't share your answer right away if you get it, but just keep locked in, stay intensely focused. Okay. Here we go. Tennis, strike, same. Don't share the answer yet in the chat box. What 4th word could be associated with all 3? Don't share yet. 15 seconds. Three seconds. Okay, place in the chat if you think you have an insight or solution. All right, some of you coming up with some good different ones. Okay, well, the answer I know is match, which some of you got. All right, excellent. I knew you were good creative problem solvers. If you didn't get it, don't worry. You probably had what scientists call a sort of Homer Simpson doha instead of an aha. It's kind of like, duh, of course. All right, regardless, the moment you got the insight, it was probably pleasurable. It is pleasurable to derive solutions to problems, no matter how big or small. That pleasure principle is really important moving forward. Okay, so don't worry, Jackie and others, if you got the dough. All right, so these are called, by the way, compound remote association problems. I don't think scientists are the best at coming up with acronyms that have positive connotations. After all, if they say, what are you working on? You would just have to say, well, compound remote association problems instead of using the acronym. All right, so we are going to play another problem, same type, under different conditions, okay? We're going to take off the horse blinders and we're going to create some different conditions because, you know, when the pressure's on, when you're locked down, you're not at BB Dev Days, you're by yourself with your computer, your monitors, you can get kind of locked in, right? At least I can, the people I work with can over-focus, which is helpful. It's called top-down focus in neuropsychology. Your frontal lobe's highly activated, you're tuning out all the distractions and you're staying focused. That's helpful under certain conditions, but not for the long-term sustainability for your mental health and your creative intelligence. So we're going to play this with some different conditions. And bear with me, I'm going to take you through experience first and explain second. So I'm actually going to have you stand. Maybe this is the first time you've been asked to stand other than the dance parties at BB Dev Days. Regardless, I can't see you, but I'm going to trust that you're standing and that you're going to follow my lead here to create some different conditions. So once you stand, you're already shifting some activity in your brain. And if you look around, some of you are already at a standing desk. That's awesome. That does shift your cognition. Look around your physical space. Look away from your screen. Already, you're creating different conditions in the brain and the creative mind. Now, I want you to place your hands on your belly or your lower rib cage. We're going to do some harnessed breathing. I'm going to explain later. But you're going to take a deep breath in, expanding your belly or rib cage, and exhale out. Inhale in, exhale out. Release your arms, close your eyes, please. On the next inhalation, let's count to 4. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, and in, and out. One more time, breathe in, and out. Now I invite you just to keep your eyes closed for a moment longer. Just observe any sensations in the feet or tingling on the hands, continuing to breathe steadily. Just notice any sensations of sound around you besides my voice. And draw your inner attention to that space between your eyebrows and just imagine your mind like one of those big zoo aquariums. And any sensation or thought that arises, just let it float by like some sort of fish. Just let it float by without getting attached to any thought or sensation. If you notice an inner narrative, just try to quiet it with the next exhalation. And bring a younger version of yourself, perhaps, that is really curious, adventurous, maybe a little weird, loves to solve puzzles and problems, loves to connect dots in wild ways. That's the mindset we're going for. Okay, open the eyes. Keep looking around. Just notice maybe how you feel just a slight bit different, perhaps. So we're going to play a third crap problem. As we do so, I want you to maintain, you can continue standing if you wish to, because I'm going to invite you even to look around while you're trying to solve this problem. I'm going to invite you to keep steady breathing while you're trying to solve this problem. And if you notice you're getting kind of locked in and you can't find the solution, step back and say, how could it be a little bit more playful, a little bit more associative, a little bit more wondrous? Okay. Everyone ready? Don't share your answer right away. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Remember, just keep the steady breathing, look around, and try to maintain more playfulness. Okay. Here's the word, or here are the words: pine, crab, and sauce. Pine, crab, and sauce. Let me give you 30 seconds. Don't share. Okay, 10 seconds. And 5. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Good. I like Eric's, a little different. Okay. Jackie got the dough again. That's all right. All right. Boom. Excellent. Oh, chocolate. Chocolate goes with anything, Jewel. That's always the solution in my book. So, okay. Really good. All right. So you may have some other solutions and insights. The point is, right, is that part of Beeman's and Kunos's studies in part show that people who can lightly notice their own thoughts, a kind of meta awareness, were more likely to solve problems. So that's one reason I took you through that meditation. This is great. Keep it coming. There are basically 3 core conditions I want to highlight for everyday insights based on their research and some of the other studies I've assimilated and a lot of the trainings that I do. One is I'm calm and openly attentive. So this is going to be an important piece for some of the takeaways and my suggestions. When you're intensely focused, or you're intensely aggravated, or you're anxious, you're trying to consume a lot of information, a lot of data, like some of us like to do. The brainwave oscillations in the frontal lobe are probably oscillating at about 13 to 36 oscillations a second. Those brainwave patterns are called beta brainwave patterns, and they've been monitored by neuroscientists actually since the 1970s with the EEG technology. Harness breathing, again shown since the 70s, harness breathing like we did can quickly calm your sympathetic nervous system and quickly drop the rate of oscillations almost by half with a frequency called alpha brainwave patterns, which you might have heard of. Alpha brainwave patterns are the state of calm attentiveness versus intense focus. Both are useful under different conditions. Okay. I love all the interaction going on here. All right. The second is the power of positive emotions, at least a higher ratio. Negative emotions actually are effective on the job under certain conditions, but you want a higher ratio of positive emotions in certain situations when your aim is to foster some insight to a problem. So it's in part why I mentioned the CRAP acronym. It's why I told you a bad joke about developers in nature. They actually used, I'm not Robin Williams, but they've actually used Robin Williams monologues as part of their studies. And those people who listened to the Robin Williams monologues exponentially could derive creative insights than those who didn't. Okay. The third is I can watch myself think. So the 3 conditions are calm attention, elevated mood, and awareness of awareness. Some of you may already foster these conditions, but you can do so intentionally in order to make time for the wonder of insight. Now, look, when you leave BB Dev Days, I don't know what your schedule looks like, but if you're like some of the people I work with, it might look something like this: busy, followed by a block of busy, followed by a block of busy, followed by a meeting, followed by another meeting, and so forth. Even if you're not in a meeting, you're probably constantly busy. That's fine. You're a hard worker. But for the long game, that might be not sustainable. It might lead to burnout. One more study. A few years ago, scientists measured the EEG brainwave patterns in the frontal lobes of certain participants across 4 back-to-back meetings. So you see this orange here? This is meeting 1. Okay. The orange is increased stress that correlates with increased beta waves. By my 3rd back-to-back meeting, I'm really stressed, maybe a little agitated. I'm trying to stay intensely focused, but I'm really burnt. And maybe by meeting 4, I'm just fried. Okay. Now, what's interesting is in a parallel study, a scientist integrated just 5 to 10 minute breaks between meetings and good kinds of breaks, as we'll talk about. And just notice the difference. The blue is increased calm attentiveness, increased alpha brain waves. So just notice what happens. Meeting 1, pretty calm. I get a break in between. Meeting 2, I'm very calm and attentive. Meeting 3, meeting 4, I'm not zoned out, I am zoned in. Probably up above where you see meeting 4 is probably where I'm zoned out, like I'm brain dead. By meeting 4 here with some breaks, like I am fully open, maybe curious. All right, so let's talk about taking good breaks. We all know how to break bad. So just think about how you break when you start to feel uncomfortable on the job, when you're tired on the job, you get frustrated by another interruption or ping, right? We've all been there. And so we reach for the pocket-sized boredom killer, creativity killer. We start scrolling, we get distracted, so forth. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not sustainable over the long term if you want creative insights. Yeah, doom scrolling, exactly. Like that's going to make us feel any better, right, Alice? Believe me, I work with people, I write about doom scrolling. I've done it before, and it always makes me feel horrible. The pleasurable sort of scrolling might be fun for a little bit, but it's still, it releases, I don't need to go completely into the brain science, but it is so overstimulating, you can feel really exhausted, like you've had a candy hangover after 30 to 60 minutes of random scrolling. So let's talk about breaking better. Frisbee break, Harry. I love that. That is awesome. Okay, restroom breaks. Yes, Brenda, for sure. Okay, so we're going to talk about breaks in the context of taking wonder breaks. Some experiences that don't have to be really long, 5, 10, 15 minutes, that actually broaden your creative and cognitive ranges, that make you more open relationally, that help your well-being, but also help your creative capacity at work as well. Okay, so I'm going to take you through 4 types of evidence-based wonder breaks. These are micro experiments for micro breakthroughs. And I want you to be thinking like, which one might you be able to test out? I love blue mind breaks. Actually, we do take wide sky breaks as well, Heather. I'd love to learn more about that. Okay, so wonder breaks, now we're going to shift from theory right into practice. These types of breaks help spark insight, in part because they invite calm attentiveness, elevated mood, open exploration and curiosity without falling down the digital matrix rabbit hole of distraction, and an awareness of your thoughts and feelings. So let's walk through each of these 4 and see which one or ones are resonating, landing most with you. Don, I'm glad you love the deep breathing. We'll get to that. It's so life-changing for so many people. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Okay, number 1 is a wonder walk. 5 to 10 minutes, ideally outside, but walking to a window in a hallway can work as well. It's shifting, it's getting you away from screens, it's shifting context in a positive way. And you're not actively trying to solve a problem. You're letting your senses in part guide you. You're literally like taking in your senses without overthinking. You may be like me, sometimes I take a walk and I realize I haven't seen anything for the past 5 minutes. So you want to just like quiet your mind and take a walk and experience. You tap into what Andrew Huberman out of Stanford calls optic flow, which calms the nervous system. It activates the imagination network, as one of my colleagues calls it. It's the parts of your brain, the regions of your brain that make those connections, where you see those patterns and can spark some solutions. Okay. Yes. Walking, Katie. Yes. Be more intentional for so many reasons. Exactly. Like some of what I say, you probably know, but like, how are you going to make this a habit and put it into practice? We'll get there. Okay. So one of you said you loved the deep breathing. When I do this with people, they're like, oh my gosh, that was so quick and such a difference. I heard a very advanced yoga teacher once say, you could spend 20 years trying to learn to put your foot behind your head and you could still be a jerk. But if you spend just a couple of weeks learning how to harness your breath, you could actually become a better person. So with breath flow, I'm just talking about a few rounds of 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out breathing, especially away from your desk. This can shift your tendency to be an overfocus into a calm awareness. Closing your eyes really helps shut out distractions as well. And you start to notice your mental patterns and maybe even catch a glimmer of a goldfish insight in your mind's aquarium. Okay, good. JR, we're going to get to that right now. Analog handiwork. Okay, that may be doing the laundry, kitchen cleaning. You're right there, JR. All right, and how to do it intentionally. So third is analog handiwork. Do something with your hands away from the screen. Wash dishes, doodle, play with Legos, knit, tinker, stack rocks, play with modeling clay, screens off so that thoughts can kind of settle. And the problem that you were kind of stuck on can simmer on your mental back burner. And fourth is possibly my favorite, curiosity conversations. This is where wonder happens in the space between. Talk with someone for 10 to 15 minutes. Now, we all know how to talk, but I have to often train myself and managers and other team members how to listen to learn, how to listen to learn. So you just talk with somebody to learn what they are curious about. You ask open questions and you listen without trying to fix their problems. And you definitely listen without trying to win an argument. All right. So these kinds of chats can really boost dopamine in a healthy way. Dopamine, as some of you may know, is the brain's signal for curiosity and exploration. It is a vital part neurochemically of what does sustain us through complex creative endeavors. But honestly, it gets wasted in a lot of our digital scrolling, which is actually releasing excess amounts of dopamine. So you may get to try having a curiosity convo a little bit later today, because I think you're going to have the opportunity for a brain date, and maybe you're going to choose to have a curiosity convo and try this out and practice it. Okay, Jeremy, I'm right there with you. I have a lot of neurodivergent clients, and one of them said, "I don't have attention deficit disorder. I have attention abundance disorder." And I thought, wow, that's me too. Like, I'm curious about everything. So Jeremy, completely sympathize and resonate with that. Okay. So I want to give you a simple framework to make wonder breaks work for you. It's called the IDEA method, just to help you remember it. The IDEA method, I stands for intentionally focus on a problem. So before you take a break, ideally prime your mind. It's about 4% of your brain's total volume that can consciously, intentionally focus. So prime it, write down a problem you're kind of fixated on. Maybe it's a sticky bug, a UX bottleneck, a feature that just keeps ballooning. Write it down and then neutralize it. Put it in the back burner, and then go do the laundry. Then go on a walk. Then do your breathing. Then sketch and doodle or have your curiosity conversation. So D stands for deliberately daydream by taking a wonder break away from screens. E stands for Eureka Capture. So most of us get any number of insights throughout a day. The thing is, we're not consciously aware of them. These wonder breaks afford you the opportunity to watch your mind at work and play. So when you come back from your break, take 60 seconds or so to jot down any observations, any hints, glimmers. Even if nothing arose, that's fine. If you didn't get like a major eureka, that's fine. Just observe, reflect. That reflection is important for you to become more familiar with how your own mind works. And A stands for act. Act on it, because we know insight without action is just like a passing fishy thought. So take what surfaced, whether it's a pattern, some idea, a gut hunch, strange metaphor, strange combo, and act on one small step. It might be to schedule acting on it, might be to write down what you're going to act on, test it, tweak it, build on it, share, delegate if you need to. Okay. All right, thanks for the kudos. I appreciate it. All right, so your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to experiment over the next 7 days. And you can report back to me on what your experiment is. I want you to make this a repeatable experiment. So here are some recommendations. Choose a type of wonder break. Choose a type of wonder break. It might be more, maybe you already got one, but now you want to modify how you do it intentionally to foster some creative insights on the job. Choose a type of wonder break. Make it a habit or a practice. If you're going to do some analog handiwork, just make it easy for you. If you've got a sketchbook, like a lot of my clients do, they've got sketchbooks, Legos on their table, modeling clay, sometimes away from their desk space, but not so far that it's not in, so that it's convenient. Okay. Third is to set a wonder break notification. Okay, Jeremy was talking about having ADHD, and he might forget, as many of us will forget to take a wonder break. And when you get locked in like I do, this is really challenging. I get locked in and I don't want to pull back. I don't want to interrupt my frantic problem solving. But there's so much evidence to say stop. In the middle, set a wonder break notification. Many of us cannot maintain sustained focus for more than 20 minutes. Some 45 minutes, some maybe 90 minutes if it's really meaningful and we keep our moods elevated. But then we're expected to sustain our focus for 8 hours a day. That's not possible. Here's the thing. Here's something I just want to mention, that in our culture and in many workplaces, we prize productivity only in terms of output without considering the quality of input, right? And yet the quality of your output so depends upon the quality of your input, what you're bringing in. So set a wonder break notification. However you set notifications, put them in your calendar. I shape my weeks every week. Of course, they're adjusting every day, but I shape approximately when I want to take a wonder break if I have the capacity and autonomy. I use this little analog timer. I don't use my phone for timers for particular reasons. And that alerts me. Okay. So I just want to mention, I know we're wrapping up here. I just want to say, test it for 5 days, capture and share those insights, choose one wonder break. Because as we're taking this in, I just want to say, a calm, wonder-trained mind, you can set the conditions to flourish more than flounder. A calm mind on wonder breaks, you can foster those insights. You can sustain yourself for the long game, which is what I want for you. And it ultimately makes you invaluable. In this age of AI, your CI, your creative intelligence, makes you invaluable. Several years ago, an anthropologist named Melvin Konner looked at the sweeping history of humanity on planet Earth. And at the end of that history, he wrote a chapter called The Dawn of Wonder. And he said that the evolution of our species and the survival of our planet requires more wonder. It's our choice. So my hope for you is you leave this session choosing wonder for yourself, for the work you care about, for the people you serve, and for this one planet. Thank you. I just want to mention you'll get some slides with some bonuses. You might note this URL where I will give you some bonuses, a Wonder at Work assessment, free chapter of my book, and more. Take down my email. Love to stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I knew we're coming down on the final seconds. That was amazing, and such great engagement in the chat, and great tips and reminders for all of us. So really appreciate, and thank you for sharing this generous discount on your book with all the attendees as well.
Yeah, 40% discount from our publishers just for you during the month of June. So I was very pleased they did
that. Actually, it looks like we have, do we have some time left, Emily? Looks like we have a little. time left? No. Okay.
You will
The
get a
countdown.
condensed version of the slides, by the way,
Okay.
from Blackbaud. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. The countdown clock threw me off there. But thank you everyone for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day. I'll actually see you in the closing session as well.